You're sitting at your desk, scrolling through your bank account, and nothing looks dramatically different. No sudden windfall, no lottery win, no viral moment that changed everything overnight. And yet, something feels different. Something in the way you think, the way you spend, the way you see opportunities that other people just walk right past. You can't quite put your finger on it, but there's this quiet, almost invisible shift happening beneath the surface of your life. What if I told you that's exactly how wealth actually begins? Most people imagine becoming rich looks like a movie scene, a dramatic turning point, a single decision, a moment where everything changes at once. But the truth is that real, lasting wealth is built in silence. It's built in habits that seem boring, in decisions that feel small, in mindset shifts that nobody else can see. And by the time most people notice they're wealthy, the foundation was laid months, sometimes years, earlier. My name is Max, and today we're going through the 10 signs that you are secretly becoming rich, even if your bank account hasn't caught up yet. And I want you to pay very close attention because some of these signs are so subtle, so easy to dismiss, that most people ignore them entirely. And that's exactly why most people stay broke. Stay with me until sign number 1 because it might completely change the way you see your financial life right now. Sign number 1, you've stopped trying to look rich. Let's start with the one that surprises people the most. You used to care. You used to think about what car you drove, what brand was on your shirt, whether people could tell you were doing well. And then something shifted. You stopped caring. Not because you gave up, but because you started understanding something deeply powerful. The people who look rich are usually not rich. And the people who are actually building wealth, they're invisible. This is one of the earliest and most important psychological shifts on the path to real wealth. When you stop performing wealth for other people, you stop bleeding money on things that don't serve you. You stop buying the watch to impress a coworker. You stop upgrading your car because your neighbor did. You stop feeling that gut punch of comparison when someone posts their vacation on Instagram. The wealthy don't perform. They accumulate. And the moment you make that switch in your own brain, the moment impressing people stops being a financial priority, you've unlocked something that most people will never unlock in their entire lives. If you've noticed lately that you just don't care as much about the status game anymore, that's not apathy. That's growth. That's one of the earliest signs that your financial psychology is maturing. Sign number 2. You think in assets, not just income. Here's a question. When you think about making more money, what do you picture? Most people picture a raise, a better paying job, more hours, more hustle, more trading time for dollars. And that's not wrong. Income matters. But the wealthy think differently. They don't just ask, how do I earn more? They ask, what can I own that will earn for me? That's the difference between income thinking and asset thinking. When you start asking questions like, could I invest this money instead of spending it? Or, what would happen if I put this into something that compounds over time? Or is there a way to build something once and have it keep generating value? That's when you know your brain is rewiring itself toward wealth. You don't need to already own assets to think in assets. The shift happens in the mind first, always. And once you start seeing the world through this lens, you can't unsee it. Every dollar becomes a seed. Every purchase becomes a question. Every financial decision becomes a step either toward or away from ownership. This is the mindset that builds portfolios, that builds businesses, that builds generational wealth. And it starts with a simple, quiet change in how you ask questions about money. Sign number 3. Your circle is starting to make you uncomfortable. Pay attention to this one because it's going to sting a little. You've probably noticed that some conversations that used to feel totally normal now feel small. Friends complaining about the same financial problems they had 2 years ago. Family members who roll their eyes when you talk about investing. People around you who see ambition as arrogance and frugality as weirdness. And you're sitting there thinking, am I the problem? Am I changing too much? No, you're just growing. And growth always creates friction with the people who aren't growing. This is one of the most painful and least talked about signs on the path to wealth. When your mindset evolves, your social environment starts to feel like it's pulling you backward. And this creates a very real internal tension, because these are people you love, people you've known for years, people who are important to you. But their relationship with money, with ambition, with risk, it's fundamentally different from yours now. The solution isn't to cut everyone off dramatically. It's to gently, intentionally expand your circle, to find people who are where you want to be, to listen to conversations that challenge you instead of comfort you. Because the research is crystal clear on this. You will become the financial average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Not approximately, imitely, not roughly, the average. If you're starting to feel that friction, that subtle discomfort, don't suppress it. It's a signal, and it means you're moving. Sign number 4. You've developed a weird relationship with delayed gratification. Imagine this. You see something you want. Maybe it's a new phone, a jacket, a trip, and instead of just buying it, you pause. Not because you can't afford it, but because you find yourself thinking, if I wait 30 days, will I still want this? And if I don't buy it, where could this money go instead? That pause? That is worth more than almost any financial decision you'll ever make. The ability to delay gratification is one of the single strongest predictors of long-term financial success ever studied. The famous Stanford marshmallow experiment showed this with children. The kids who could wait consistently outperformed the others across nearly every life outcome decades later. And the same principle applies to adults managing money every single day. When you stop being controlled by immediate impulse, when you can hold a desire, examine it, and choose intentionally rather than reactively, you start making decisions that compound in your favor. You start choosing assets over liabilities by default. You start saving before you spend. You start building before you consume. And here's what's fascinating. This skill gets stronger with practice. Every time you pause before a purchase, every time you choose to invest instead of splurge, you're strengthening a mental muscle that most people never build. And that muscle is going to carry you further than any single income boost ever could. Sign number 5. You've started tracking your money. Obsessively, you know your numbers. Not just roughly, not just, I think I spend around this much on food. You know your monthly expenses down to the category. You know your net worth. You know how much you saved last month versus the month before. You know your investment returns. This sounds boring to most people, but this is actually a hallmark of people on the path to real wealth. Because here's the thing, you cannot manage what you don't measure. Every elite athlete tracks performance. Every successful business tracks revenue, expenses, and margins. Every great investor tracks their portfolio. And yet most people walk through their entire financial lives with zero visibility into what's actually happening with their money. When you start tracking, when you get obsessive about knowing your numbers, you create awareness, and awareness creates choices. You see the $200 a month leaking into subscriptions you forgot about. You see that your food spending crept up 40% in 3 months. You see the month where you invested 20% of your income and it felt amazing. You see the month where you invested nothing and it felt wrong. Numbers don't lie. And the people who are willing to sit with those numbers, face them honestly, and use them to make decisions, those are the people who quietly, steadily build wealth, while everyone else wonders why nothing ever changes. Sign number 6. You've become almost allergic to debt. Not all debt is equal. There's a difference between leverage used strategically and consumer debt that quietly destroys your financial future. But here's the sign we're talking about. You've developed an almost visceral reaction to bad debt. The idea of carrying a credit card balance makes you uncomfortable. Financing a depreciating asset feels wrong in your gut. Borrowing money to fund a lifestyle? Unthinkable. This instinct is not something most people develop. In fact, the entire consumer economy is built to make debt feel normal, comfortable, expected. 0% financing. Buy now, pay later. You deserve it now, figure it out later. These systems are engineered to extract wealth from people who haven't yet developed the allergy. When you start feeling that discomfort, when debt starts feeling like a weight rather than a convenience, that's your financial intelligence kicking in. That's you recognizing at a gut level that every dollar in interest paid to a bank is a dollar that could have been compounding in an investment account, that every liability you carry is a drag on your ability to build. And the best part? Once this instinct develops, it becomes automatic. You don't have to think hard about every financial decision anymore. The right choice just feels right, and the wrong one feels wrong. That's financial intuition, and it's one of the quietest, most powerful signs that you're on the right path. Sign number 7. You've started investing. Even if it's small. You have money in the market, or in real estate, or in a business, or in some asset that is working for you while you sleep. It doesn't matter if it's $50 a month or $5,000 a month. What matters is that the habit exists, the behavior is in place, the door is open. Because here's what most people fundamentally misunderstand about investing. The amount you start with matters far less than the fact that you started. Compound interest doesn't care about your starting balance. It cares about time. It cares about consistency. And the person who invests $100 a month starting at 22 will almost always outperform the person who invests $1,000 a month starting at 40. When you've started investing, even in a small, humble, imperfect way, you've done something that the majority of people never do. You've made your money start working instead of just sitting. You've opted into a system where time is your ally instead of your enemy. You've crossed a threshold that, once crossed, tends to accelerate. Because investing creates interest, and not just financial interest. It creates emotional interest. You start paying attention to the market. You start learning. You start caring. And the more you understand, the more you invest. And the more you invest, the more it grows. The flywheel starts spinning, and it rarely stops. If you're already investing, even a little, don't dismiss that. That is a bigger deal than you think. Sign number 8. You've developed multiple streams of thinking about income. You have a job maybe, or a business, but you're not just thinking about that one stream anymore. You're thinking about side income, about dividends, about royalties, about rental income, about building something on the side, about what happens if the primary income disappears tomorrow. This mental shift from single-stream thinking to multi-stream thinking is one of the clearest signals that your financial mindset has evolved past the average. The wealthiest people in the world don't just have one income source. They have 5, 7, 10. Not because they got lucky, but because they were obsessed with the idea of financial redundancy long before they had the resources to create it. They thought in multiple streams first, then they built them. And here's what I want you to understand. You don't need to have multiple income streams right now. You just need to be thinking about building them. That mental focus, that obsession with not being financially dependent on a single source, is what eventually leads to the actions. The side project you launch, the investment account you open, the skill you monetize on the weekend, the rental property you save toward. The thinking comes before the building. Always. And if you're already thinking this way, you're already ahead of the vast majority of people around you. Sign number 9. You invest in yourself without hesitation. You bought a book this month, or a course, or you paid for a coach, a mentor, a tool that makes you sharper, faster, better at what you do. And you didn't agonize over it. You didn't see it as a cost. You saw it as a return. This is one of the most important distinctions between people who build wealth and people who don't. Most people treat spending on themselves as indulgent, frivolous. I'll take that course when I can afford it. I'll hire that coach someday. I don't need that book, I can Google it. And then they wonder why their income stays flat. why they keep hitting the same ceiling, why they feel stuck. The wealthy invest in their own minds aggressively, and they do it before they feel like they can afford to, because they understand something profound. The highest ROI investment you will ever make is in your own knowledge, your own skills, your own network, and your own mental clarity. No stock, no real estate deal, no side hustle will consistently outperform what happens when you sharpen the mind doing all the investing. When you stop seeing self-investment as spending and start seeing it as compounding. When you start treating your own development the way you'd treat a high-yield asset, everything changes. Your earnings go up, your opportunities expand, your decisions improve, and the gap between you and where you were 6 months ago becomes undeniable. Sign number 10. You feel quietly confident about the future. This is the last sign, and in some ways, it's the most important. There's a feeling that quietly shows up when all the previous signs are in place. It's not arrogance. It's not certainty that everything will work out perfectly. It's something more subtle than that. It's a deep, grounded, unshakable confidence that you have what it takes, that you understand the game well enough to keep playing, that even if something goes wrong, you'll adapt, recover, and keep building. Most people walk through their financial lives in a constant low-grade state of anxiety, worried about the next bill, anxious about job security, stressed about retirement, living in a permanent background hum of financial fear. And that fear? It drives terrible decisions. It drives keeping money in savings accounts that lose to inflation. It drives staying in bad jobs. It drives avoiding investments because loss feels too scary. But when you've built the mindset, when you've been tracking, investing, learning, delaying gratification, building habits, expanding your circle, and thinking in assets, something shifts. The anxiety fades, not because your life is perfect, but because you trust yourself. You trust your systems. You trust your trajectory. That quiet confidence, that is the feeling of wealth being built. Not yet fully arrived, maybe, but undeniably on the way. Here's what I want to leave you with today. Wealth is not an event. It is not a lottery ticket. It is not a lucky break that happens to other people and not to you. It is a direction. A slow, compounding, invisible until it isn't direction that is shaped by the tiny decisions you make every single day. And if you watched this video and found yourself nodding, if you recognized yourself in 2, 3, 5, or all 10 of these signs, I want you to understand something. You are further along than you think. The work you're doing right now, the mindset you're building, the habits you're forming, they are not nothing. They are everything. They are the foundation that the money will eventually sit on. Don't get discouraged because the bank account hasn't caught up to the mindset yet. It will. It always does for the people who stay consistent, for the people who keep learning, for the people who refuse to trade a big future for a comfortable present. Keep going. Stay patient. Stay obsessed with the fundamentals. And if this video gave you any value at all, do me one favor. Share it with someone who needs to hear this message today. Because there might be someone in your life who is secretly becoming rich right now, and they just need someone to show them the signs. Tell me in the comments what video you want me to make next. See you.